Welcome back to my studio. Um, Today, I thought it would be really fun to do a Valentine's Day card. And I was sitting at my computer one day and I had a bunch of sticky notes and I was trying to kind of work out a design for a card. And I came up with something that I like, and I think it's relatively easy. Um, so you'll just need some basic supplies. And I do want to say that this card is a cheap, um, it's just a cheap paper card. It's not watercolor paper. I think I ran out of my watercolor cards, and I thought about folding up a piece of watercolor paper, but all I seem to have is cold press. And cold press is a little bit rough. It's a little bit textured, and it's kind of hard to get a clean line like when you're doing letters and stuff. So I'm just going to opt for this cheap piece of paper. It is thicker than printer paper. It's like a lightweight cardstock. So we're not going to be doing super heavy watercolor washes and things like that. It's going to be more like line and wash. So I've got a micron pen here, which is waterproof, and I've got my watercolors, a pencil, and some masking tape. So I am going to mask off the area on the card around here and kind of tape it down in the process, I think. So I came up with this idea because I really love birds, and I'm a self-professed bird nerd, and I love learning about birds and painting them. Um, so that's kind of where I came up with the idea for this card. And I thought it would be a lot of fun to share this with you. And I do have another video for a different card if this is not your jam. So, okay. Another thing I want to say is that I've talked about this in past videos. I'm not one of those people that breaks out the ruler and painstakingly measures everything out. I do a lot with tape, and I also eyeball stuff. So I'm going to grab a piece of half-inch, I think that's half-inch or inch, um, artist tape, and I'm going to put this at the bottom, and that's just going to mask out where we're going to put the wording. That way I don't have to worry about making a line with a pencil or anything like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is sketch out my letters. And the big letters are LOVE. And the way I like to start with lettering is to just sketch in the basic shape of the letter. This would be called, like, this is like a skeleton letter. And then from here, that's where you start adding all of the serifs or any sort of additional, you know, um, flourishes on your letters. I think actually I'm going to make this a little bit shorter. And I keep it light. I'm using an HB pencil. You can use a 2H or whatever you've got. I think I'm going to make this O even shorter. Something like that. And I'm going to make the E about the same height as the O. Okay, once I've got these sketched in really rough, then I can go back and I can start thickening up these lines. And I know that I'm going to add serifs to this. So just make a straight line on the top, and then I'm going to connect these like that. And I'm going to do the same thing here at the bottom. And you can add any kind of flourish that you want. They're your letters. So this is, make this O a little bit cleaner. And I'm just going to thicken up one side of the O. So I'm going to do the same thing to the V. We'll be outlining all of this in pen. And something else, you don't have to use watercolor. You can use like brush pens or colored pencils, whatever you've got. And the nice thing about hand lettering too is that um, it can be as wonky as you want, and it'll still look good. I think I'm going to shorten the. I'm going to shorten some of these. I didn't leave a lot of room for my birds actually, so I've got to take these down a little bit. I think that's a little bit better. Okay, I need to add in the other words, so I'm going to put the I up here. And again, I'm just going to start off with the like skeleton letters. Actually, I don't want to put the I there. I think we're going to put it right here. And you can decide if you want to add some serifs to this too. I think I might, just to keep it kind of all, cohesive. And then the word you is going to go here. Okay, and now I think we can go ahead and add in some bird shapes. Now, I don't want this to be like super fiddly because it's a small card so that it doesn't have to be detailed. This is more illustrative, so we can get away with just some basic shapes. So I can add a little guy right here and just make like a little circle for his head. Um, and then his back. And I want this one to be a chickadee. And you can make it like a separate circle. Just make a couple of circles like this and then connect the shapes like that. And you can put his little feet down here. And chickadees have really small beaks like that. And they've got the cap on their head. You know, he's got his wings, and then he's got the black part down here on his throat like that. And that'll make more sense once we get some color in there. And I'm going to add in another bird, I think here and up here. So this one, I think, is going to be like front facing. So I'll just make a circle for his head and another big circle for his body. And I think we'll make him looking this way. And again, just go back and connect the lines. And usually what I do is get rid of this line down here at the bottom with his head. And you can just add like a little bib, like some feathers. And you can add a couple little shapes here for his feet and his eye. And that's really all he needs. Something like that. And one more guy right here. And I'm going to make him kind of uh, looking up. So I'm going to make a little line for his beak and then his head. I think we're going to start him up just a little bit higher. Maybe, yeah, like up here. So that we can get some feet on him. And let's see, maybe we make his tail going make his tail going up like this. And then something like that. And the last thing I wanted to do is to add some sort of an indication of a nest in here in the O. So I am just going to make some scribbly marks in here. And I do want some pieces of straw like hanging out, which I think would be really cute. And of course, you can add anything else to this that you want to. But I think this is a pretty good start. And the next thing that we're going to do is go ahead and ink most of this. And after we get it inked, then we'll add in a little bit of color. Okay, so I have some micron pens. I have a 003, a 005, and a 01, and these are all black. Um, you can use whatever color you like. I know sepia would probably be really nice. I don't think that I have a small sepia colored micron. I think the smallest I have is a 05. So I'm going to go ahead and use the 01 for all of the lettering. And then I'll probably use a smaller pen for the birds. So I'm just going to go in here and outline my pencil lines very carefully. I have a wobbly hand sometimes, so my letters may not be perfectly perfect, but that's okay. And some advice I can give you as far as making straight lines is don't use your wrists to do it. Use your whole arm, and you'll get a little bit of a straighter line. And I actually think that this pen that I'm using is a sepia. It's a 01. So I guess I'll be using this. I'll keep the birds relatively sketchy, so um, I don't think it'll make much difference if I'm using a black pen for the birds. So as I was erasing all of my pencil marks, I was thinking to myself whether or not I wanted to add in a background color. So if I do add a background color to this, I know it's going to be kind of tricky because I want to paint around everything. So um, if this is something that you want to do, possibly painting it before we added all the letters in. The benefit to painting it after is that the letters will retain their brightness because we won't go over them with a different watercolor, which would mute them if, let's say, we wanted to put a red on top or something like that. So um, I think I'm going to very carefully mix up a color to put behind here. And I have not really decided on a color palette yet either. We could do the typical red for the word love, but part of me kind of wants to do this like something that looks like a tree, maybe um, making the letters gradate from like a green to a brown. I think that would be really pretty. And if we do that, then maybe we can do the background like a sky color. Um, like I said, this is not watercolor paper, so I don't know um, what it's going to look like or how it's going to hold up, which it's probably not going to hold up very good, but there's only one way to find out, right? So um, let's go ahead and give this a shot here. And I have a bunch of blues mixed up already on my palette, so I think I'm just going to go with I'm just going to spray my palette, and all of the colors that I'm using that are in this palette are Daniel Smith colors. So um, I am probably going to start off, let's see, something light, like a lavender, or maybe I'll add a little bit of this Indian Throne blue in here. And I think I'm going to do this in stages. So I've got some enclosed areas here, and I can kind of test this out a little bit. So I'll just wet this, and then I'll grab some blue and drop it in. So it's not too bad. And I'm going to go around this bird. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to pre-wet anything just because it's not watercolor paper. But I am going to work quick because I don't want these edges to dry hard, and my studio is incredibly dry. So that just means I have to work all the more quicker. So okay, so this is dry now, and I am going to start with the L over here, and I've got a couple of colors mixed up. I've got a burnt umber, and then I've got a dark sap green. So I'm going to grab my small brush, and we're going to start um, with the green. And then I'll decide how far down we're going to go. Okay, I think I'm going to start adding the brown in now. And I'm just going to paint right over the green. And I'm going to start dragging this down until we get just a pure brown color. Okay, now that we finished the letters, we can go back and do a little bit of a wash for the nest. And I think a yellow ochre, starting off with a yellow ochre would be really nice. And I'm using my smallest brush, which is a size 0. And these are all black velvet silver brushes. And while this is wet, I can go in with a darker brown, especially at the bottom here, and drop in a little bit of this brown. I could even grab some, I have a Payne's Gray blue. I can grab a little bit of that to add in a little bit of a shadow. That's a little bit much. I'll just go back to the brown. There we go. So now we need to decide what we want to do for these letters, what color we want to do. And since I am using kind of an earthy palette here, I think that might work the best instead of adding something that's just not gonna jive. So, okay, I think I'm gonna use this Indian Throne Blue for these letters. And you can do yours in whatever color you like. I just wanted to try something a little bit different. Not your typical red Valentine's Day card. Because these letters are small, painting them a dark color gives them just a little bit more weight so they don't disappear into the background. So the final thing that we have to do, well, not the final thing, but we're going to paint these birds. So I'm going to start with this one over here. And I think I'm going to do a little bit of brown, a little bit of gray, and then I'm going to give him a little bit of red on his head and maybe on his chest, like a purple finch. And I want to get that beak in there. And like I said, this is, you know, um, it's just a wash of color that I'm putting in here, not, um, trying to get super detailed. So I'm going to add this little bit of red. And let that mix right in. Okay, and I know that I want him to be a chickadee, so I've got to get some black going and or just a really dark color. So I'm going to mix some of my um, Payne's blue gray with my burnt umber, and that'll give me a nice dark color, very close to black. Before I do that, I'm going to wet him here because they're a little bit gray. They've got a little bit of color going on. They're not totally white. And then sometimes there's a little bit of yellow. And just add in this little bit of dark there. And you got to give him his little black cap. And then he's got pull some of this back out. And I'm going to blot that up with a paper towel a little bit. Okay. And for the last guy, to me, he looks like a nuthatch. So, let's see. They've got like a little bit of a gray cap. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use this Payne's blue gray and just give him a little bit of a cap there. And then same thing with his wings. And their chest and their, the rest of the head is pretty much white. I'm going to put a little bit of that in his tail too. And I might just give him a little bit of shadow down here. And anything that you want to go back in and you fix is really easy to do with a black pen, or you can also grab a gel pen if if you want to add a little bit of white, like this chickadee that I kind of he has like no white on him now. So if I want to go back in and fix that, I can very easily just add some white in with my gel pen. And a lot of my gel pens are some of them work well, some of them not so well. And these seem to do a little bit better. And I'll give him some white there. Well, I was going to give him a little bit of a highlight in his eye, but the pen is too big. So I'm going to take my brush and just kind of wipe that out a little bit. And I can go back in with my pen and give him his eye. There we go. And I think maybe I'm going to add his feet. Just a little indication of some feet. And I think also what I want to do before we take this tape off is I think I'm going to thicken up the lines on my lettering, and I just got some water on there. Okay, so I'm going to thicken these lines up a little bit just so they stand out a little bit better. And something that I was thinking about doing too was adding in maybe some detail, like bark detail into the wood. I don't know yet if that's what I want to do, but I think it might be kind of cool. So now that we've done this detailing down here for the bark, does that mean that we're going to do some detailing up here with some leaves? Um, yeah, this is the whole part of creating and process. And you get to a point, you're like, well, if I add that in, I might screw it up. And then I've done this whole thing and now I don't like it. Well, like I said, nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? So let's go ahead and add in maybe some leaves. And I'm debating whether or not I should do it with the pen or if I should just add these little leaves in with watercolor, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Um, so we can use the same green. We can mix a little blue in there just to make it a little bit darker. Um, but another layer is definitely going to make it darker. So, all right. So I'm just going to let's make maybe some little leaf shapes. Okay, and I'm going to take some water and go over my nest here, and I'm going to pull up some of this color because it's blending right in with the wood. So if I can lift some of that out towards the top, there we go. It'll be a little bit more obvious that it's a nest. And I can always go back into and add a couple of little more, you know, strands. Okay, so I think it is safe to pull this tape off, and I'm actually going to reposition it like right here. Try to get that as straight as I can, and then I'm going to pencil in um, more than birds. So the card reads, I love you more than birds. And I have to decide if I want to do this in, if I want to print it out. I think I'm going to do cursive, and I'm going to, and then I'm going to grab my pen, and I'm going to use my sepia colored pen to add in my lettering. And I am going to do a little bit of fake calligraphy here, and I'm going to thicken up all of the downstrokes on my letters. Okay, I have a little heart right there too, but I think I'm going to paint that with some metallic. So I'm going to pull my tape off now that I'm done with that. And I can erase this and get out my metallic paint. So I'm going to grab some of this Lissalinka metallic watercolors that I have. And if you're interested, I did do another video where I swatched these out and made some bookmarks if you're interested to know how these paints work. So I'm going to put a drop of water there, just give it a second to let it activate. And I think that smeared my ink. It sure did. I have never had that happen before. So I'm going to hit this with the dryer and make sure that it's dry. Okay, I have this mono eraser. It's a sanded eraser, and it picks up ink. And we're going to go ahead and use this very carefully. And I have another idea if this does not work. You have to be very careful with these because you will destroy your paper if you go in too heavy-handed. Yeah, that's not working. So I'm going to, hopefully this is dry. Okay. So I'm going to pick up the rest of my graphite here. And we're going to go ahead and add in maybe some little bird tracks. Okay. I'll give that a second to dry before I try to pick that up with the eraser. And I'm going to go ahead and add in my little heart here at the end. Maybe we can add a few little accents throughout this piece with the gold. But before I do, I actually want to put a couple of birds in the sky. And we all know how to do that. Just make those little shapes. There we go. Maybe we can add a few little accents to this nest to make it kind of stand out a little bit. And the very last thing that I'm going to do is erase these pencil marks that I made for the tracks, and hopefully that covered up all the little dots. My thing with mistakes is that if you can somehow make them look intentional, then you're good to go. And I think I'm going to do this little dot above the birds in this metallic. And we're going to take the tape off, and I am going to cut this card in half and mount it on the paper just so that you can see what it looks like. And I have a paper cutter. Um, they're fairly inexpensive. So I'll cut the card in half with that. You can use a pair of scissors too. Okay. So before I do any of that, I'm going to make sure that this is dry, and then I'm going to cut it in half. And when I come back, I'll show you what I'm doing with the other piece of paper to mount it on. Okay, so I have cut that part of the card off, and I have some paper. It's like cardstock, and it's pearlized, and it comes in all different colors. So I thought this really pretty brown would be nice with this because it picks up on some of the metallic that we added in. And something else I was thinking about doing was cutting the edge of the card just to add a little bit more of a decorative feel to it. So I am going to take these little scissors that I have, and it tells you what the edge will look like. So it gives it like a deckled edge kind of a feel without having to actually rip it. So I'm going to do that and do this as straight as I can. Okay. So I have this Elmer's, it's like glue. It adds these strips of glue, and it's just a lot quicker than adding actual glue to the back of this. So try to get this in the corners and do like a little X. And then we're going to stick it down. I'm just going to eyeball as straight as I can. Get this on here. It almost looks like a little postage stamp. I think it came out really cute. And this is a fun little gift you can give to somebody. You don't have to cut it up like I did, but it's just another idea. And you can do this with any little piece that you paint, and it gives it like it's been matted. And you can buy a little, maybe like a little command strip or something that will adhere to the back, or you can even use, they make this stuff, it's like tack. It's kind of gummy, and you can just put a piece of it behind here or on all four corners, and it will stick right to the wall. So that's it for this card. I think if you're interested in this, I've got another card that I've done that is a little less specific to birds, but a little more Valentine themed with hearts. So check that out if you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.